By now, you're probably familiar with how a Nuzlocke works. If a Pokemon faints, they die, and you can only get one encounter per route. But what if all those encounters were random? Movesets are different, abilities are changed, heck, the champions team could even look like youngster Joeys. The possibilities are endless. But to make this even crazier, all gym leaders have 3 extra Pokemon and held items. Plus at level 30, all of my opponent's Pokemon will be fully evolved. Oh, and did I mention this is a hardcore Nuzlocke? Before we jump in, let me know what the wildest thing that's ever happened to you in a randomizer is. The ending of this run might just take the #1 spot for me. With that said, let's get into it. Just like this challenge, we name ourselves Randy and it's time to unwrap our present. Well, would you look at that? Usually I don't take legendaries in Nuzlockes, but who knows what could happen here. Welcome to the team, Giratina. Clamp and Mega Kick, huh? After battling Ferroseed for half an hour, Sharon's Bagon Dragon Rages us, but I'm not starting the Nuzlocke until I get balls. I secure a Jolly Dodrio, beat Nurse Cammy's Girder, and Hades takes down Zeus. In our second battle with Bianca, we square off against an imposter Thunderous. After clamping and wasting PP, we're finally victorious due to struggle recoil. Then I have to go to Hydra against Minun, but our 3-headed monster has Volt Absorb. We take care of the electric type, beat Sharon without a hitch, and it's time for our first gym battle. Sideland leads Fungus and I send out my safest option, Giratina. I don't want to waste Mega Kick, so I bring Dodrio into a Horn Leech and then set up a few Howls. Unfortunately, +2 Bug Bite doesn't do as much as I thought it would, so we're at pretty low health by the time a second takes the Mushroom down. Against Tauros, I go back to our Ghostly Dragon and bring it down to half health with a Mega Kick. Next turn I go for Clamp as the leader swaps into Charizard, so that worked out pretty well. Brave Bird recoil and Clamp damage actually managed to take the Fiery Lizard down and Hades learns Spore. I go for a Perish Song strategy, but the AI decides to swap when the counter hits 1, so Lapras lives to see another day. Cryogonal, which was the gift Pokemon in the Dream Yard, finishes Tauros off, but with Seismitoad next, I need to make a change. Hades connects Spore, but unfortunately I'm met with a turn 1 wake up as Hydra switches into Water Pledge, leaving her with 3 HP. I'd hoped the 4 times effective Razor Leaf would one-shot, but the Toad lives on a few hit points and slays our mythical beast. Giratina's Clamp damage avenges his fallen friend, and midway through a dig, Lapras faints to Perish Song. Fitting, he was already 6 feet under. Things progress pretty smoothly until the second gym. Juggler Forest sends out a Giratina, and after slapping an X-Defend on it, Keone goes down to a single Mega Kick. I decide to send in my own Distortion Lord and outspeed for a Spore. Next I Perish Song and just decide to wait out the turns until I can switch. But with the counter at 2, Hades gets Spiderweb. Now there's nothing I can do but accept my fate as both Giratinas go down to the deadly tune. When it's time for Lenora, I only have 3 Pokemon to go against her 5, and they're not the greatest around. Hermes starts with a Fake Out, and then I switch to Hera, who's met with Octazooka. Technoblast brings Palpitoad down to 1 HP, and after a heal, we crit for the KO. Next is Rhyhorn, but Perugli's Karate Chop doesn't even do half as she's decimated by Head Smash. Hermes manages to finish it off with Mirror Shot, but now Lombre comes in, and it's raining. We get a few clear Smogs off as the Lily Pad misses Hydro Pumps, but Soft Boiled makes things difficult. When a Hydro Pump finally does connect, of course it crits for a one-shot. Down to our last hope, Charmeleon comes in and outspeeds for an acid kill. Sableye brings us to half HP, but after 2 Calm Minds, a single Searing Shot keeps us in this. Luckily, Lenora's last Pokemon is a Spearow, so 1 more Searing Shot means we get to keep moving. Sadly, in Pinwheel Forest, we run into another Rhyhorn, and that's all she wrote. But my mom always says when one door closes, another one opens. Oh, Reshiram, against my Paris and Snivy. Sorry, I meant when 2 doors close, a third one opens. Enter Randy 3. This time around, our only viable starter option was Frostless, but let's jump right to the first gym. Silent leads Clefable, and I send out Muck, who gets the KO with Sludge Waves and some help from Head Charge Recoil. Next is Crawdaunt, who outspeeds and digs underground. I can't let Sewage take the super effective ground move, so I swap to Kimono. After taking almost 50%, Power Whip just isn't enough for a kill. Unfortunately, this means we have to take 1 more dig, and instead of Shadow Punch knocking the Crawfish out, Silent decides to heal. This is no problem as Power Whip gets the job done and one-shots the following Starmie and Blastoise, leaving the leader with only a Zip Strika. I bank on Outrage getting the kill, but the Zebra survives in the red. Yawn means we're guaranteed to get one more attack off, and since Silent burned his potion, we win the battle death-free before Frostless falls asleep. We also get Shift Gear as our TM here, which is just incredible. There weren't really any tough battles leading up to Lenora, so I get a few new team members and challenge the second gym leader. She leads with Lucario as I send out Choice Scarf Ducklet. I thought about Tailwinding, but decided to just do some damage and was surprised by a red card swapping my Duck into Muck. We managed to avoid Crush Claw, and then after tanking Flare Blitz, we get some damage down with Peck. Lenora uses a super potion, but between a crit Peck, Flare Blitz recoil, and Rocky Helmet damage, the Aura Pokemon is a sitting duck for one more critical hit. Next is Swinub, so I go back into my Water Bird as the Ice type takes aim. Two Chatters get the knockout before Quaxley takes damage, and then Lenora sends out Whiscash. Since I'm locked into Chatter, I continue to spam the move as the Catfish uses V-Create. It's a powerful move, but it also lowers the user's defenses, and since I resist, I'm able to take the third Pokemon down before I lose my Ducklet. Now Lenora sends out Marsh Stomp, and deciding my bird has taken enough abuse, I bring in Bramble the Tangrowth, who eats Hydro Cannon and one-shots with Energy Ball. Last is Hoot Hoot, who Frostless handles with Icy Wind, and that's it for badge number 2. With that, we're able to make it past where attempt 1 ended, so we'll get back into the details a bit as we get the Dragon Skull back from Team Plasma. I revived some fossils I found, which end up being a Combuskin and a Xatu, but 25 is over the level cap until after we beat Burgh. In Castelia, we get the Eviolite from this Professor's Aid, which is going to make my Metang nearly invincible, and then I head straight to Route 4 for another encounter. I'm hyped to find Crobat, which is one of my favorite Pokemon, but Recoil and Muck's Rocky Helmet mean our newest prospect dies to sand damage. Back in the city, we save Bianca's mana, and then it's time to take on Burgh, who'll have a full team of 6. He leads Nidoqueen as I send in Quaxley to Tailwind before switching out to Muck. After tanking Acid, I try to use Earthquake, but the Poison type has Levitate, which is pretty scary. Not to mention, Stab Drill Run does big damage to us. I decide to go back to Ducklet, who's unaffected by the ground type move. I get 2 Chatters off before being in KO range from Acid, so I decide to pivot through Metang to Tangrowth. We do have to take 1 super effective Acid, but then an Energy Ball drops Burgh's lead. Next up is Meganium, but all it does is spam Aromatherapy as Bramble chops it down with Air Cutters. The third mon is Kinkeldr, so I continue to use the flying move, but after 1 connects, we get put to sleep. I try for a 1-turn wake up, but don't get it, and after Superpower, I swap to Frostless. Shadow Punch is able to finish the fighting type off, and then Execute goes down to 2 of the same. Snow Warning Slack Off is no problem as Kimono stays in and brings it down with a few Icy Winds. The final Pokemon is Cast Form, Water Form, who could pose a threat because of Download. I quickly discover that the Water type has no attacking moves, so after stalling with Acupressure and Heal Orders, we eventually win this battle with Shadow Punches. If you're unfamiliar with Black and White, there are a lot of rival battles, so I'll only be covering the ones where something noteworthy happens. Anyway, on our way to Nimbasa, we catch a Swadloon in Desert Resort and a Furret in Relic Castle. Then a Plasma Grunt actually manages to kill Bramble with a sludge-waving Arena Trap Luminion. To go from bad to worse, Game Freak won't let me put a tie on Muck. I have a serious bone to pick. He still looks great in that top hat and cane though. After catching a Typhlosion, my next encounter is Landorus, but Ducklet pays the ultimate price and I run from the legendary. N takes me on the Ferris wheel to try to cheer me up, but then reveals himself to be Team Plasma's king. Seriously dude, I'm still not over losing Tangrowth. I blow off some steam by taking his team down and then barge into the 4th gym to battle Elisa. I lead Muck against her male Combi, but decide to switch to Metang to set up some shift gears. Aeroblast is a powerful move, so I wonder how much damage it would have done to Sewage. Probably not much. After a few shift gears, I Fire Punch for a kill, but Elisa's second Pokemon is Monferno, so I decide to switch to Xatu. After Flamethrower does about half, we use Aerial Ace, and then it looks like we take a lot less damage. Could Monferno have Defeatist? Regardless, the leader burns a Hyper Potion, and 2 more Aerial Aces take the monkey down. Hailcast form is next, and I obviously can't leave my flying type in, so I swap to Tiny the Combuskin, who's tickled by Ice Shard before destroying cast form with a critical hit Searing Shot. Walrein is next up, so I go to Crush, but a Hydro Cannon almost does him in. I do a little magnet bomb damage on the recharge turn and then swap into leaf for the next pressurized blast. Then I realize I can only do damage with signal beam, so I sack the bug to bring muck in on a recharge turn. Gunk shot just isn't enough to kill, but luckily we get the poison, so the walrus's reign of terror is over. Corefish also goes down to the overpowered poison move, and one more takes down Elisa's ace Horsey for our 4th badge. In our next battle with Sharon, he sends out a Rotom Wash, which gives my team a terribly hard time. I can't bring Combuskin or Typhlosion in safely, so I'm forced to stay in with Xatu and see if she can get the job done. Power Gems come up just short as I lose Future to a Shadow Ball. At least I know Kimono will outspeed, so I bring her in to finish the washing machine off with Shadow Punch. After that, Sharon just has a neat arena that we make easy work of and can continue on to Driftfield City. Oh, but not before beating these 3-year-old engineers with a Zekrom. Clay tasks us with hunting down Zinzalin and some Plasma Grunts, but when this one said they were pretty strong, I wasn't expecting Mewtwo. Before Vulcan could even get a Spore off, the man-made Pokemon hits a huge Psycho Boost to one-shot us. Crush is able to avenge his friend with a few Magnet Bombs, but that death hurt. After clearing out the rest of the Grunts, we get one more encounter leading up to Clay, and it's exactly what we needed. Wooper. As much as I love the little guy, I do evolve him into Quagsire and then head into the gym. This is a joke, right? At least this time nobody has to die, so now let's take on the Sheriff. Schoolboy Lawrence sends out Yanmega, who yawns Matang as I go for Shift Gear. Now we outspeed and Fire Punch for a one-shot before taking a brief nap. I bring Joy the Blissey in, but she's immediately murdered by a crit Crabhammer. At least her Rocky Helmet does a little damage. I go to Sewage, who's also crit by Crabhammer, so maybe Politoed is holding a Scope Lens. We manage to connect Gunk Shot, and although the water type doesn't go down, poison damage finishes it off. I don't want to take any risks against Garbodor, so I bring in Whoops and the pile of garbage Acid Armors. We brush off a Psychic and then get a crit of our own with Earthquake for the kill. My safest play against Staravia is to go back to Matang, and on the swap we eat Head Charge. Crush is forced to take a few hits before finally waking up with 27 HP and setting up a Shift Gear. At +2 speed and +1 attack, we're able to get this KO with Zen Headbutt, and Shuppet goes down to Fire Punch. Clay's ace is a Charmander, so I make a safe switch to Quagsire, tank a Glaciate, and after a pointless Pain Split, we win the battle with Crabhammer. Even though nobody died in this next battle, I did just want to mention that Bianca somehow got her hands on Celebi and Rayquaza. How? After we beat her, we get Fly, so I can revive my next batch of fossils and add Breloom to the team. My Chargestone Cave encounter is a Raikou, but sadly it teleports after being hit by Shadow Punch, so still no legendaries for me. We get a bit of a breather as N's team is pretty trash here, and we make it through the cave without much trouble. In Celestial Tower, I catch a Scolipede and then ring the bell, which you should all do after subscribing and smashing the like button down below. Now that our level cap is over 30, most trainers are going to have fully evolved Pokemon. That means the back half of this run is about to get a lot tougher. We do manage to make it to Skyla without losing anyone, so let's kick off gym number 6. Her lead is Marowak, and since Crush really doesn't want to be hit by a ground type move, I go to Whoops, who takes Bone Rush pretty well. Then for some reason the AI uses Drill Peck and Mon number 1 dies to Crabhammer. Next is Lavani, who lands a Jump Kick and Mist Ball on Tiny, but we retaliate with a 4 times effective Searing Shot for the knockout. Landorus is super scary, but I do have the 4 times effective Kimono, who switches into a fairly powerful Peck. Then Tragedy strikes as we miss the 95% accurate Icy Wind and get KO'd by a super effective Assurance. No matter how many Nuzlockes you play, the pain of losing your starter never gets any easier to deal with. I turn to our brick wall, who's always been able to stay standing, Matang. A crit Snarl does decent damage as we chip away with Magnet Bomb. Then Assurance does a third of the health we have left, but Zen Headbutt brings the Genie into the yellow. Crush hangs strong after a critical hit Assurance, and with 7 HP avenges Kimono with another ESP charged Headbutt. Another strong Mon, Kangaskhan, is next, and I go to my healthy fighting type Cappy. On the switch, Crush Claw lowers our defense, but I stay in, and after a Mind Reader, Force Palm leaves the normal type in the red and paralyzed. Although Skyla heals, we're now faster than the mother Pokemon, so 2 more Force Palms take it out. Funny enough, the flying type leader actually has a Braviary. What's not funny is that Breloom is 4 times weak to flying, so I bring Muck into a crit peck which does over a third of his health. After a second, we connect Gunk Shot, but it's not quite enough to fell the Eagle. Now I opt for Sludge Wave, but Rocky Helmet damage finishes Braviary off after a 3rd peck. Skyla's last Pokemon is Crawdaunt, and lucky for us, we still have a healthy Breloom. Cappy swaps into a Sharpen, but the buff is useless as she outspeeds and delivers the final blow, a massive Wood Hammer. Now I'm determined to win this run for Frostless. After beating Sharon outside Twist Mountain, Alder gives us Surf so I can round up a few more reserves for the box. Unfortunately, out of a handful of possible encounters, I only managed to catch a Stoutland and a Bastiodon, which is probably one of my least favorite Pokemon. Tiny also evolves into Blaziken, and then it's time to progress toward Icarus City. Also, I added Hans the Ambipom to the team a while back, and Belly Drum with Soft Boiled is so much fun to use, but I digress. Our Icarus City encounter is Gengar, which is absolutely incredible. I also pick up Honchkrow on Route 8 and Wartortle in the Moor of Icarus. I've kinda grown attached to my current team, so even though we got some power, they'll stay in the box for now. I had to say something, didn't I? Whoops goes down to a crit foul play from one of the gym trainers' Drapion. Well, where one water type falls and another takes its place, so Wartortle evolves into Blastoise and joins the party. But our troubles don't end here. Another of Bryson's gym trainers opens with Rotom Frost against our Blastoise. I decide to switch to Breloom, and after getting Cotton Spored twice, a Force Palm gets the kill. But now she sends out Moltres. I switch back to Blastoise as the legendary bird prepares for Sky Attack. I stupidly use my free turn to bulk up instead of just using Aqua Tail, so now with 18 HP, I need to swap. Most of my team is weak to fire or flying, so I decide to go to Muck since he's got considerable bulk. Well, a critical hit Eruption had other things to say about that. So now I go to the only other Pokemon I can really send in, Hans. Her Aqua Tail does pretty good damage, which makes me think Blastoise would have just gotten the one-shot. Anyway, after a Cosmic Power, we miss our next attack, but Moltres just sets up once more and dies to another Aqua Tail. I definitely didn't need to lose Sewage there, but the silver lining is that now Gengar can fill the empty slot. Let's see if Bryson decides to do more damage to my team or if he thinks his trainers have done enough. I led Ambipom hoping to get a quick Belly Drum off, but Infernape will most likely kill if I stay in, so we go to Blastoise who dodges Hurricane. Next turn both Pokemon miss, but then we dodge a 3rd Hurricane and one shot with Aqua Tail. Seismitoad is next, so I go to Cappy who soaks up an Energy Ball and Wood Hammers for a kill. Archeops without Defeatist is scary, but I've got faith that Blastoise can handle it. After switching into an Air Slash, the prehistoric bird uses Defend Order to survive an Aqua Tail. Then we miss our next attack on the healing turn, so Torta takes another Air Slash and brings Archeops into the yellow. I go to Gengar here, and Air Slash does a decent amount of damage, but then we outspeed for a Flash Cannon kill. In retrospect, I probably just should have used Metang instead of Blastoise, but whatever. I bring him in now against Druddigon, but of course the Dragon type uses Sacred Fire. Next it's right to Tiny who resists the move and trades a few Secret Swords with it before getting the kill. Bryson's 5th Mon is Electrode who uses Magnet Rise as I fire off Searing Shot which brings it into the red. Regardless of how fast this thing is, I have priority Mach Punch, so that's another KO for Blaziken. Last is Exploud, so one final Secret Sword is all it takes to get our 7th badge. In Dragon Spiral Tower, I make a dumb play against a Snorlax. I got greedy and went for Belly Drum with Hans, who was swiftly killed by Takedown. Aside from that, it's smooth sailing to everyone's favorite cutscene, and then it's time to chase Getsis down. The villain gets his monologue, we grab the Lightstone from Lenora, and make way for Opelucid City. After Drayden and Iris give us a history lesson about Unova, it's finally time for the 8th gym. If you thought Bryson's gym trainers were tough, then buckle up. This outraged Dragonite hit 3 attacks and then broke through Confusion twice in a row to KO Blaziken with a crit. But that wasn't the end of things. I went to my newest team member Ampharos to Electro Web the dragon, but after outspeeding, our Charge Beam couldn't get the kill. The Orange Terror then snaps out of Confusion and takes another one of my Mons down with Outrage. Akuma comes in and is finally able to put a stop to Dragonite with a Shadow Ball, but a lot of damage has been done. Next up is Typhlosion, who survives the Ghost type attack, and my heart sinks as the 180 base power physical V-Create is fired at Gengar. Somehow he hangs on and finishes this trainer off with another ghostly projectile. I replace our fallen friends with a Moxie Arbok and a Gallade that has Super Luck. As a sick joke, the randomizer gave another trainer Dragonite, but between my new duos Spore and Ice Punch, we were able to avoid any more casualties. At least until it was time to battle Drayden. Arbok opens by sporing his Dustox, but it gets a 1-turn wake up, so Matang has to eat Signal Beam on the switch. After a second, we Zen Headbutt, which just isn't enough for the knockout. Knowing Drayden is going to heal, I'm able to use this opportunity to set up a shift gear. Now at +1 attack, Zen Headbutt does Dustox in, but the ground-type Steelix means I need to switch. Blastoise doesn't even feel the Metal Claw as he comes in, and after an Aqua Tail, I decide to set up Bulk Up. The Iron Snake switches to Twin Needle here, which unfortunately poisons Torta. But at +1 attack, our Aqua Tail is now guaranteed to KO, and the Dragon Master sends out Wormadam. I go to Gallade as the Trash Cloak uses Shift Gear. I try to do the smart thing and set up Reflect as another Shift Gear comes from my opponent's end. A critical hit bite means the screen was useless as we hit Bone Meringue for just over 50% of the bug's health. Not wanting to risk Robro, I go to Cappy, who takes a +2 Flame Wheel a lot better than I thought she would. Mist Ball, however, almost takes her out, but Breloom is able to get a Force Palm off for the kill. Of course Wormadam's Poison Point had to trigger though. Primeape is next, which means I'm relatively safe going to Gengar, who's unaffected by Vacuum Wave. A Shadow Ball followed by a Shadow Sneak take the fighter down, and then Sharpedo hits the field. I bring Slick in, planning to use Spore, but Bite does way too much damage. I end up going to Breloom, but Bite also does a lot of damage to her, and she dies to Poison. Her sacrifice allows me to get a free switch to Gallade, who one-shots the shark with Storm Throw. Interestingly enough, they gave Drayden a Dragon-type ace, Hydreigon. After the Hydra Cosmic Powers, Robro hits a crit Ice Punch, which is just enough for the win with help from the Dragon's very own Sandstream. With 8 badges in hand, there's just one last obstacle before the league, Sharon. He leads Download Haxorus, who spatial rends Arbok before being put to sleep by Spore. After seeing how little damage Cross Poison does, I decide to switch to Gallade and Ice Punch for the KO. Unfortunately, the dragon wakes up, so Robro has to take a crit rend first. Swanna is next, and fearing a flying type move, I bring in Gengar, who takes less than half from acrobatics. Akuma Shadow Balls for 70% of the Swan's health, and then survives an Aeroblast on just 8 HP. After knocking the bird out, Sharon reveals his most terrifying Pokemon, Shaman Skyform. I go to Honchkrow, who filled Breloom's old spot, but an immediate Frost Breath brings him down to the red. Hoping to preserve my bird, I bring Matang in as Razor Shell does a bit of damage but also gets the defense drop. Next turn, Crush uses Shift Gear and then Fire Punch as the Mythical continues to chip away. We can't survive another attack, so I'm forced to pivot to Slick. With Black Sludge Recovery, I think he can live another Razor Shell, but my assumption was wrong and we lose our Snake. I bring in Gallade hoping to end things with Ice Punch, but Razor Shell also takes him down. I decide my best course of action is to see if Gengar outspeeds, which he doesn't, so there's a third death to Shaman. Maybe Matang can survive an attack without the defense debuff? Nope. I send Honchkrow back out and he actually dodges Frost Breath and takes flight. Since we're slower, we don't need to worry about an attack this turn, so Dawn finally takes this demon out. Dustox is last, so I assume another fly will end the battle, but I did not expect to be outsped. Well, it's all down to Blastoise. Signal Beam confuses us, but we break through to do half to the poison type with Aqua Tail. Another Signal Beam hits, and Torta fights off confusion again, landing another Aqua Tail, but I guess our first was a high roll. A third beam leaves Blastoise with 22 HP, but he snaps out of confusion and lands a Razor Shell to narrowly escape this battle. With my team decimated and not many options in the box, I'm not feeling super confident that the new squad has what it takes to be crowned champs. Plus, I'm running builds that require a decent amount of luck. Illusion Scolipede with Quiver Dance, Acupressure Spore Stoutland, and Moody Bastiodon. But with no more encounters to get, all we can do is try our best. Chantal leads with Houndoom as I send out Scolipede disguised as Skuntank. I switch Blastoise into a Safeguard and then get Dark Pulsed as I bulk up. After a second Dark Pulse, we land a +1 Aqua Tail for the kill and the Ghost Expert sends out Bibarel. I decide now is a good time to go to Stoutland as the Woodchuck begins storing power for Sky Attack. I try to spore her, but completely forget about Safeguard and get punished with a crit for my bad play. Now that Safeguard wears off, I can actually put the water type to sleep and bring in Splinter. I Quiver Dance and then Bug Buzz for 70%, also getting a special defense drop. Bib Arrow wakes up and gets ready for Sky Attack, but we outspeed, so I stay in for another Bug Buzz and get the kill. Cast Form is next, so I decide to Quiver Dance again while at Lucky Chance. A single Bug Buzz gets the KO, and then it takes 2 to knock Sigilif out, which only used Feather Dance. With Excelgor in, I switch to Swoops the Swellow, but Icy Wind does big damage. I guess now it's time for Bastiodon to hit the field. Surprisingly, a non-boosted Rock Wrecker picks up the one-shot, so we're still in good shape. Now that our attack has fallen twice, I start to Secret Sword Porygon Z. Since the normal type is trying to wake up slap me, I go back to Scolipede, whose illusion is finally dispelled. Regardless, I use Bug Buzz, but the digital Pokemon sets up Trick Room, so now we'll go second. On the heal turn, I set up Quiver Dance, and as Z wastes a turn resetting Hail, I get to +2 special. We're hit by Wrap, and our Bug Buzz still just isn't enough to finish this battle. Thinking Chantal would heal again, I Quiver Dance, but it's just another Wrap, so as Trick Room ends, we're able to U-turn for the last bit of HP, giving us a shockingly deathless win over the first Elite Four member. Next is Grimsley, who leads with the always scary Deoxys attack form. Scolipede outspeeds and U-turns for the kill, and then I send Doge out to face Blastoise. Spore connects on the turtle, so now it's back to Splinter, who sets up a few dances. When Blastoise wakes up, it uses Aqua Ring, and then I try conserving Bug Buzz PP, but Secret Sword barely scratches him as he goes underground. As long as I have Swellow, I may as well use him to not take damage, so after I switch in, I use Shift Gear. Giga Impact hits hard, but on the recharge turn, I'm able to strike back with Attack Order for decent damage. Here I pivot through Shield to Stoutland on the recharge turn of Giga Impact. After putting the starter back to sleep, I use 3 Acupressures, boosting both defenses and attack, but of course the turtle wakes up and crits me. After another Spore, it just takes 2 strengths to get the KO, and then Spiritomb comes in. We put the collection of spirits to sleep and kill with 2 drill runs, then we only get 1 strength off against Reuniclus before it wakes up and Extrasensory's Doge. Instead of just sporing again, I go to Skuntank, who's unaffected by Psybeam, and pick up the kill with Poison Jab. Girafarig goes down to an Acid Spray and a Sludge Wave, and then Grimsley reveals a second Deoxys, this time normal form. Camouflage turns the legendary into a normal type, and it actually just goes down to 1 Poison Jab. Another member down and still no deaths. Let's see how Caitlyn goes. A lead Unpheasant means a quick switch to Bastiodon, who can Rock Wrecker for the knockout. Crawdon is a little scary, but I'm at +4 attack now, so I don't want to switch out. The Crawfish sharpens twice, and then I E-speed for about 60% of its health. I go for Secret Sword now, but Drain Punch almost KOs us and brings Crawdon back to a very comfortable amount of HP. I go to Scolipede, but Hydro Pump does a lot of damage. I had a brain fart and thought Hydro Cannon was used, so I assumed I could Quiver Dance for free. Lucky for me, the next attack missed. With that huge save, I was able to Bug Buzz to get out of a bad situation, and then KO her Starmie and Perugly with Bug Buzz and Secret Sword. I bring Blastoise in against Lunatone, who starts off with Worry Seed. Then the Crescent Moon uses Absorb before going down to Aqua Tail and revealing the Psychic Master's final Pokemon, Cofagrigus. I bulk up twice while the Sarcophagus spites, and then one last Aqua Tail picks up the win. Time for Marshall, the last thing between us and N's castle. He leads Muck, so I U-turn into Stoutland. Between Spores, the Poison type sets up some Toxic Spikes as I Acupressure, but don't get any attack buffs. After a Cross Poison and a Protect, Doge picks up the first kill with Drill Run. Next is Garchomp, who tries to Sucker Punch as I Spore. Then I switch to Theodore and Draco Meteor twice for the KO before the dragon could wake up. Against Walrein, we Poison Jab for 50%, which also makes the following Water Spout weaker. Another flurry of Toxic Punches takes the Ice type down, and Rampardos hits the field. I bring Torta into a Gravity, and after double teaming, the Dino goes down to Aqua Tail. Next is Mienshao, who does decent damage with Brick Break, and then I discover it has Dry Skin, so Blastoise is useless. Splinter takes almost no damage from the move, and then a Bug Buzz, Secret Sword, and Hail damage pick up the kill. Last is Scrafty, who flatters my bug after being hit with Secret Sword, so I swap into Blastoise as the fighting type defense curls. Aqua Tail does decent damage, but after a triple kick, I bring Swellow in while Marshall heals. Fly just isn't enough to end things, but instead of attacking, Scrafty just boosts its defense again. That means I can outspeed and land an attack order to finish the Elite Four deathless. Maybe this team has more promise than I thought. Now let's see what Reshiram randomized into. Apom. I can't even use it because of Species Clause. Whatever. Time for the climactic battle with N. Stoutland doesn't get any attack buffs from 3 acupressures, so I switch him into Splinter. Unfortunately, Water Pulse confuses us, so now I go back to Doge, who eats Dropek. After Spore, I acupressure once and get a Spadef boost, and then decide to just start attacking. Crit Strength does good damage, but after another confusion, I bring in Swellow. Attack order doesn't do much, and then we miss Fly, so I lose another bird, this time to crit Water Pulse. Skuntank isn't able to finish a Azumarill with Poison Jab, so he needs to eat a Water Pulse. N decides his lead hasn't harassed me enough, so he heals it as Poison Jab does around a third. 2 more finally take it down, and Skuntank is still in good health. Ampharos doesn't scare me too much, so I stay in and Poison Jab, but wasn't expecting to see Stab Thunder, so that's another Mon down. Scolipede comes out and Quiver Dances as the electric type hits us with Electro Web, lowering our speed. Bug Buzz doesn't get the knockout, so another web means we're probably slower. I bring Bastiodon into a Thunder, but he takes it pretty well and E-speeds for the kill. Third is Regice, who gets 6 bulk ups as I spam Secret Sword and Metal Claw, eventually taking it out while only being hit by 1 Ice Punch. Shell Smash Mr. Mime hits the field, so I decide to use Metal Claw but don't do much damage. Next turn we get paralyzed from Stun Spore, and after 3 full paras, the Psychic type U-turns into Scolipede, which takes a big chunk from Rock Wrecker. On the recharge turn, we're tackled and get a moody attack boost, so I extreme speed for the KO. As the Mime comes back, I E-speed again, which leaves it in the yellow. It shell smashes and then misses U-turn as I'm fully paralyzed. Next turn, it lowers its defenses even more, and we connect Metal Claw for the kill. Last is Gothitelle, who gets taken low by a Metal Claw and a crit extreme speed before flattering shield. Eventually, we break through confusion for a Metal Claw knockout and defeat Team Plasma's king. Getsis then loses his cool, and we're thrown into the final battle of this game. He opens with Watchog as we send out the other Route 1 encounter, Stoutland. After outspeeding for a Spore, I swap into Splinter, who's hit by Barrage. Next I use Quiver Dance as Watchog defense curls, and then I Secret Sword for just under 50%. Barrage is doing 15 damage per hit, so I fire off another fighting type move, and a 5 spot leaves Scolipede with 3 HP. On the heal I Secret Sword again, and then switch out to the hero of our last battle, Bastiodon. After a few barrages, the big face Pokemon crits a Metal Claw for the knockout. Nidoqueen is next, and I definitely don't want to be hit by a ground type move, so I go to Blastoise. 2 drill runs connect as we retaliate with Aqua Tail, but the poison type manages to survive. Getsis doesn't heal his Mon, so 1 more drill run connects before it drops to Razor Shell. As Braviary reveals Horn Leech, I go back to Bastiodon to play the Moody Lottery. Then in a strange turn of events, the bird boosts our attack with Power Split, sealing its own fate to Rock Wrecker. Sandslash comes in on our recharge turn, but instead of doing damage, it just iron defenses. I bring Doge into another defense buff and then put the Hedgehog to sleep. Now we go to Blastoise as Sandslash hits +6 defense. Then Getsis decides to be toxic and starts spamming Smokescreen, and when we manage to land Aqua Tail, it does terrible damage. I use a few bulk ups as an Assurance lands between Smokescreens. Aqua Tail still doesn't quite look like it could 2-shot, so I go back to Stoutland, who has Rattled procced by Assurance. I Spore and finally get an attack boost from Acupressure, but Strength barely does anything. After a few Bulldozes and a crit Assurance, I try to spam Strength for the kill, but a Custat Berry plus Wake Up allows Sandslash to take my Sheepdog out with another Bulldoze. Even though he only has 3 HP, I bring in Scolipede, who outspeeds Sandslash and Bug Buzzes for the knockout. Next is Infernape, and I decide to bring Bastiodon back in and see what boost he gets. Eventually I swap to Blastoise, but Fusion Flare leaves him with 5 health. I sack the Gen 1 starter to Night Daze, which means my only living Pokemon are Scolipede and Bastiodon. Fusion Flare actually does good damage to our fossil, and the monkey wasn't quite in range of Rock Wrecker yet. After an Avalanche, we extreme speed for the kill, and Getsis sends out his last Pokemon, Girafarig. Zen Headbutt flinches us turn 1, but then after a Razor Leaf, we get Rock Wrecker off for the one shot and the win. With that, I successfully completed a randomized hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Black. The death box was definitely more full than I'd hoped, but in the end, we pulled it out with the most unlikely of teams. I'm super impressed with the performance Moody Bastiodon put on. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe if you want to see more. I'd really appreciate it. Also, let me know who you think the MVP of this run was. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.